Hello, everybody. I am Mickey. I'm not your mama's minister, and the question posed to me was, how do I work with angels? And I thought that was an awesome question because that's not something that I usually talk about. So, if you go to the library, if you go to the bookstore, you're going to find in the metaphysical and religious sections tons of books about working with the angels and messages from the angels and so forth and so on. And so, this is going to be my answer from my belief and my experience. And you do you. I rarely work with the angels. Every once in a while, I will call them in on some super duper emergency situation where I want to call on their specific energy. I need help with that specific energy. And it is easier to work with the demonic choirs than it is to work with the angelic choirs, because the angelic choirs are a little bit like those housewives from the reality shows. They have, I wouldn't say necessarily that they've got huge egos, but we've definitely put them on a pedestal and kind of given them this idea that they require a little bit more time and energy put into it, and focus. And I'm bad with the focus, as many of you know. Um, and so the when you are working with angels, according to my beliefs, when I am finding that I need to call them in for something, I know that it is a much longer process. It is definitely longer than a novena, so we're talking longer than 9 days. Definitely consistent. Definitely um, a more intense, I guess, ritual. And so, and there are a shit ton of different ways that you can petition them. Shit ton. Whether you decide to go with one of the books that has been published, whether you decide to text me and say, pardon me, text me and say, hey Mickey, what do you do? And or whether you decide, and you know I always recommend this, whether you decide to you put it together, you put the ritual together to summon them, to petition them. The biggest thing that I know about, or that I believe, because remember, everything that I talk about having to do with spirituality is my belief. I cannot prove anything, just like you can't prove anything about your spirituality. And so um, when it comes to I'm working with an angel or an angelic choir, what I'm going to do is definitely do a lot of uh, sigils, symbols, incense, candles, you know, ritual that I've written down, the words and so forth and so on. A lot of process to work with them. And then when it's all said and done, they're kind of like St. Jude in the fact that they do require a public acknowledgement. So if you think that you're going to go ahead and petition, let's say, Michael, the archangel, and ask him for help with whatever it is that you want help with, and then afterwards say, you know, yay, I did this, yay me. And then or just say, oh, thank you, very quietly. No, it's got to be a public recognition of them. And that I do know that I've run into and experienced. And I know that they do tend to kind of be like some of the saints, that they will take away the gifts that they've helped with if you do not publicly acknowledge their help at the end of the situation. So, uh, it depends on how you're going for it. It depends on who you're petitioning. It depends on what you're petitioning them for. Um, it is not like working with their cousins, the demonic choirs, because they are less connected to humanity than the demonic ones are, and so it's more. Oh, I think it's just a more a stricter petition. And so, absolutely, if you feel the inclination, I know that I've known a lot of people who feel very inclined to the angels. They have angel pictures and angel paintings and angel figurines, and name their children after angels and so forth. And of course, that person is going to have an easier time petitioning them because they feel that connection to angels, and then somebody like me who doesn't feel that connection to angels. Another thing that you need to remember is that historically, it hasn't just been the Judeo-Christian religions that had dealings with angels. It's also been the ancient polytheistic religions that have had dealings with what they believe to be angels. And another thing that you need to remember is that because we are limited by the senses that we have as human beings, we are not just souls. And so you have to remember that we're limited to what we have knowledge of. And so there can be other entities, such as demons, that show up and we automatically think that they are angels. And because that's been, pounded into our heads is, oh, we have guardian angels. And so, well, we have guardians, but guardian angels doesn't really make sense. And so that's not really their job. They are kind of like the big shot military. Yeah, that would probably be what I would call them. But they're definitely not the ones that are doing the day-to-day watching out for us. And so throughout history, the documentation of people seeing angels, we don't know that they were all necessarily angels. We don't know that they weren't. But different entities can appear to be the same form or the same appearance that an angel would to our mortal eyes or ears or anything like that. So when working with them, you just need to remember that it's almost like working with your conservative, strict grandmother. And then after that, what do? You send your conservative, strict grandmother a card saying thank you. And then you talk about it. Oh, look at what my grandmother, knitted for me or whatever. And so it's that same concept. But feel free to go ahead and drop me a line, whether you agree, disagree, whether you're wanting to know what my ritual usually is. I can give you some suggestions for your own. And feel free to comment about anything, I guess. And comment, like, share, subscribe, and so forth. And I will talk to you soon. Many blessings and much love.